Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I like to discuss some really interesting new polling which shows just how badly the Conservatives are losing support across all age groups, but more than that, how even middle-aged voters are voting like younger voters. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. Right, fairly quick one, but I've just seen something really quite remarkable. I keep being asked, and I think I was asked last night as well. So how can I be so sure that Labour are going to win? There's still potentially another year. Some people think maybe a year and a half. I think more likely a year before the election. Things can tighten up. They'll look at polls in the past where Labour were doing all right and then it all went to hell. And you know, if you look at the detail of it, you see that it's not just about looking at the voting. People will look at the voting intention polls now and they'll look at it what it was like in 2014, 2015 or 1991, 1992 and go, But when you look into the more detail, you can see that it's much stronger than it would appear. And sometimes, though, sometimes you just see a little snapshot that you can show to others and go, that's why the Conservatives are going to lose. And here's another one. Here is today's. So if you look at voting behaviour in the 2019 general election, you can see, unsurprisingly, that younger voters much preferred Labour and older voters much preferred the Conservatives. But then you look at voter turnout. So what you can see is you can see there's some variation amongst each age group here because this is over the last three general elections, 2015, 2017, 2019. But you can see a general trend. The older you get, you can see the problem, can't you? The older you get, the higher the turnout. Younger voters might favour Labour, but not enough of them favour them enough to walk to the end of their street and put a pencil across in a box. Or at least this is the case for about half of them. But the vast majority of older voters do get out and vote. This is the problem. Turnout increases as people get older, heavily favouring the party which appeals most to those older voters, even if they're not generally popular amongst the public. But something is happening. Labour are increasing their support across all age groups. We know that Labour are focusing mostly on middle-aged and older voters because these are the groups who vote in those larger numbers, but they are gaining everywhere. That Labour now have seen a 6.5 point swing from Conservative to Labour amongst the youngest age bracket. That is absolutely stunning because this age group were already heavily in favour of Labour even in 2019. But they have achieved huge swings amongst the other age groups as well. And one statistician whom I regard highly has been pointing out that 25 to 49-year-olds are polling a voting behaviour very similar to 18 to 24-year-olds. Essentially, voting intention is very strongly pro-Labour all the way into middle age. And some of the younger end of the middle-aged voters are voting in very much the same way that very young voters do. Only remember, they're going to do so in larger numbers. Because there's no suggestion that turnout will be very much different by age group at the end of the next election. It might be boosted a little bit, it varies a little bit, but we're still going to see this general trend of as you go up each age group, they're larger and larger turnout. But it's safe to say we're going to see the same general pattern, you see. But if those age groups where they have, say, 70% turnout start voting like the groups with about 50% turnout, that's a lot of extra votes for Labour. I've said in the past, when people wondered why Labour are focusing on older voters so much when they mostly vote Conservative, it's because of vote yield. Older voters represent the bulk of all people who actually turn out to vote. So winning a small percentage of them is worth more than a larger percentage of lower turnout voter groups. And Labour currently, also you have to bear in mind a lot of the younger voters who do vote tend to be loaded up in the cities as well, where Labour already have the large majorities. You don't necessarily see that from some charts like this. But Labour currently have a swing of 15.5 points amongst the 65 plus group, the oldest age band. The Conservatives still have the bulk of these voters with a 16-point lead over Labour, but it was a 47-point lead over Labour in 2019. This is massive and in itself would be enough to win loads more seats back. But the Tories also had a 23-point lead amongst 50 to 64-year-olds, another key group. But about 80% of these turn out to vote. 70 to 80%, depending on the election. Now, Labour have wiped that point lead out and earned themselves a 14-point lead themselves. Labour now lead the Conservatives in all age groups except for the oldest. And I want you to consider something else. in line with what we've been discussing recently as well. Indeed, so many others, with the mortgage problems coming up. We already know people are saying that is going to lose the Conservatives more and more voters. Well, look at the picture now. Look at it now. Labour have taken over the lead in that sort of second oldest age group. They now have a substantial lead over the Conservatives in all but the very oldest age group, and they've cut down that lead on the older age group. Consider what happens to those sort of older middle-aged age groups as the mortgage time bomb reveals itself and they lose even more voters. This is what it looks like now, and it's set to get worse for the Tories. Labour have extended their leads as well amongst the groups that they already had a lead in. So for 25 to 49-year-olds, from a 9-point lead in 2019 to 42-point lead now. You know, you look at this with a sense of excitement, but then you consider this. The Tories are also looking at it. Is it any wonder they're panicking? But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.